Hunter in the yellow was without its two internationals, but was still favoured to beat Coffs Harbour. The score was locked at 1-1 minutes into the second half. Hunter looked dangerous, but Coffs keeper Tracy Keogh was equal to the task. But even Aussie keeper Mark Bosnich would have been tested by the next one. 2-1 and Hunter was all class. The corner kick paying off again. Hunter maintained the pressure. The Coffs keeper left to fight her own side for the ball, as Hunter racked up a 5-2 win. Lake Macquarie in the blue was all fired up for its game against the far north coast. The aggressive defence kept the coast scoreless, Lake Macquarie winning by 2-0. The win has Lake Macquarie in contention for the state title. The other favourites, the Central Coast and the Hunter. Organisers transferred the titles to Shelley Beach after poor waves at Avoca. Reigning Australian champion Shoal Bay's Mitch Dawkins put his credentials on the line, taking advantage of the 2-metre right-handers to win through to tomorrow's finals. Narrabeens Jared Howes in the white had less luck. The young surfer wiped out of contention after a great set of rides by Chris Davidson in the red. Everybody's pick for the overall championship is Nathan Webster, but organisers are wrapped with the quality of all 128 surfers. Rugby is not new to Newcastle's number 1 and 2 sports grounds, but women's teams are a less familiar sight. But promoters say the novelty of women rugby players won't last for long, with the sport growing rapidly throughout Australia and New Zealand. Australia has more than 500 senior women's players, with more than 20,000 girls exposed to the game at school level. And that's reflected in the quality of the games at the third national titles, with teams producing fast and furious football. But the pace was a bit too quick for local team Newcastle in the red, the Sydney University back spreading the ball wide at every opportunity with immediate results. University continued to apply pressure, breaking the Newcastle defence out wide. University going on to win 10-0. The day was marred by an injury to Brisbane Barbarians player Kylie McKellar with a suspected spinal injury. Fortunately, she was later cleared of any serious damage. The finals will be played tomorrow.
Rescuers arrived with little time to spare after the alarm was raised by a park ranger just on dusk yesterday. 2 walkers had been caught by a heavy sea and a rising tide. One man had been washed into a gaping sea cave. His mate went to help and was also trapped. With the sea gradually rising and forcing the pair deeper into the cave, volunteer rescue diver Bob Ives was lowered to the perilous task of reaching the men in time.
We used the truck as an anchor. We lowered some ropes over with a diver on the end of the rope. He was then washed into the cave and attached rescue harnesses onto the patients.
First out, 21-year-old Opera Dragut from Kurunbong, cheating certain death as he was winched above the waves. With the tide rising noticeably as if the sea was intent on trapping the remaining men, 20-year-old John Fitchett from Canberra was also dragged clear. Bob Ives was the last out, relying on a flashlight to signal to the rescue party above. Time and time again he was knocked from his feet and washed into the cave. On the cliff top, the young men were reunited with their battered rescuer and only then learned of the cave's notorious reputation. There have been a number of dramatic rescues at the spot, others haven't been so lucky.
It's after we got out we found out that there's 7 names on the plates up the top, so didn't particularly want another 2 added onto it.
Stuff like that without playing heroics or anything else. It's life and death situation, not only for the rescuer but for the 2 guys that you're down there to rescue.
A photograph of Senior Constable Doug Eaton in the foyer of the Toronto Police Station is a daily reminder of a tragic and senseless loss. The father of 2 died from a shotgun blast 17 years ago. Ever since, colleagues have had to fight to keep Doug Eaton's killer in jail. Eligible for parole in 1997, 58-year-old Nicola Glesick is again seeking early release and is already enjoying day leave.
The depth of feeling with the police in the Newcastle area in particular is one of, we're incensed about it really, because Doug Eaton did work in the Newcastle area. There's still a lot of police working here now that work with Doug and they remember him and they remember his wife Judy, and she's still in the area too, and we're not very happy about it at all.
Doug Eaton's widow Judy has campaigned along with police to keep Glesick in jail.
If for her and her family only, for no other reason, we feel that he should be kept in for at least his maximum 20 years.
It was a dark day for the force when, in 1991, Glesick's double life sentence was reduced to 20 years.
He was the main instigator. He's the one that got the weapons. He's the one that took them to the club and organised the crime. We're not just incensed about the fact that he's a cop killer, but too many murderers in this state get the benefit of free legal aid, and the victims aren't looked at in anywhere near the same light as the murderers are, and that's something that's got to be addressed.
Today was the competition of the concert bands. 21 community brass and concert bands have transported their instruments to town for the annual Who's Who of timpanis and tubas. There's a big contingent from Sydney, including the Bankstown District, St Mary's and Willoughby City outfits, all ranking with some local contemporaries among the best bands in Australia. Central Coast, Muswellbrook, Newcastle and Maitland bands dominated today's competition. Newcastle is to host the National Band Championships in 1997, but for more foot-tapping brass sounds in the meantime, be at the City Hall from 9 till 5 tomorrow.
In its 46th year, the regatta has built up a strong following with competitors travelling from across the state for the event. A crowd of up to 500 was also on hand to watch the display. They were almost deafened by the roar of the engines, some of them with more than 600 horsepower. The idea of the event is for boats to complete 3 laps of the 2-kilometre loop. Central Coast driver Nigel Thompson started last in this handicap event, but still managed to win in his boat, White Heat.
Very hard, very fast racing. It's been really good.
Today's action was the finale to 3 days of competition. After 3 days of competition, the atmosphere was tense at Newcastle International Hockey Centre as the final 2 teams battled it out. Late in the first half, Illawarra in the red and white scored through Karina Hampton. The goal spurred Eastern Districts into action, and a desperation dive here nearly saw the score evened. Moments later, Eastern Districts player Alex Lupton was unlucky not to score. Illawarra ran away with the match in the second half with two sensational goals. Kathy Bill dived over Eastern District's keeper Karina Aitken for this goal, and with seconds remaining in the game, Melanie Dempster makes it 3-0 with this cracking shot.
The results come 3 months after BHP announced it planned to turn the quarry into a residential development. The company would hand over the 4-kilometre beach to the public and turn 200 of the 500 hectares of land into prime real estate, saving 130 hectares for natural wetlands. The survey claims 86% of people in Belmont are in favour of the principles of the development. But Green groups say the survey is not as straightforward as it looks. Of the 8,700 questionnaires sent out by BHP, just over 1,000 were returned, less than 15%.
Well, I think it indicates that people didn't take the survey seriously. I know I didn't, for one. I didn't bother replying to it because it didn't address the issues whatsoever.
The survey only has questions about development in general. Belmont Sands is not mentioned.
The survey said that 86% of people were in favour of the residential development. In fact, the question wasn't asked.
Judy Cousins from the local catchment management group says the whole area should be turned into a wetland park. But BHP claims the survey was only intended as a guide to people's attitudes. The company will submit its rezoning application to Lake Macquarie Council within the next few weeks. Richard O'Leary, NBN News.
As a birthday treat, a 1907 vintage car conveyed Mrs. Hurley to her party. It's the type of vehicle Jessie may have ridden in as a teenager, but at 17 she was already married and having children. She raised 4 daughters and 2 sons, mostly on her own. One of the tough things about reaching 104 for Jessie is that she's outlived all but 2 of her children. You look forward to, have you been looking forward to your birthday today?
Yes. Oh yes, I've been a bit upset now and again, you know, thinking of it, but I'll be right.
Along with her 2 surviving daughters, Jessie's family has increased to 21 grandchildren, 46 great-grandchildren and 33 great-great-grandchildren. After a royal wave to her friends and neighbours around the Tarragall Glen retirement village, Jessie was welcomed into its country club with a standing ovation. Jessie has been a mainstay to her family, and apart from still tending her vegetable garden, her greatest love in life is to be around family.
Hi, Mickey.
That's excellent.
I'd like to present this check to you, down in the hospital.
Yeah.
For Mickey Mouse and all his pals.
That's it. Oh, look happy about this. Oh, there we go. And another one.
The context of the whole council budget, it is a minor amount, but more important than the actual for a little bit longer. Well, there I can remember, and we need to provide for expenses. And, you know, here we are,
delegating the issue of conference expenses. And say this council has done nothing other than put a figure in the budget to talk about
Councillor Brian Burston was on the attack today despite the overnight setback.
I suggest that they are not fit to hold the office of councillor in the city.
He says councillors John Radnich and Kerry Hickey betrayed the confidentiality of an informal council meeting. It's alleged the councillors told a local butcher that Councillor Burston had reported him for alleged unsafe food practices.
The whole thing's just a political beat-up at the end of the day. Councillor Burston is really trying to lift his profile for the next election. It's going to be a long 12 months.
But the incident has exposed a flaw in the Local Government Act, and a $5,000 penalty will be introduced next month to deter breaches of confidence. But Councillor Burston is still determined to take the matter to the ICAC. Despite the squabble, Cessnock Council did agree on some things. Newcastle Wallsend Coal Company has been given approval to extend its Ellalong mine to the east.
The management of the mine indicate that this will prolong the life of the mine, and it's really good news for the town because there are 300-400 jobs out there, and it's good news.
And half of Wollombi is happy after the controversial guest house above Maitland Road was given the go-ahead. And the Hare Krishna community has been forced to apply for development applications for 3 of its buildings on its farm near Millfield.
They're going to have to legitimise what they have there. That means that we're going to have to get development applications, remove illegal structures.
Richard O'Leary, NBN News.
University researchers are using the humble sea snail to find out what sort of pollution is affecting marine life in our oceans and lakes. Sea snails are particularly useful because pollutants concentrate in their bodies. By analysing them, scientists can determine which chemicals are entering the food chain. A study has revealed a very high level of petrochemicals in Newcastle Harbour and Swansea.
These obviously are probably coming from shipping activity, recreational boating activity, urban runoff and so on, but they seem to be an important factor entering, again, the food chain.
The research also shows that at Wangi on Lake Macquarie there's a large amount of resin acids, present either because of urban runoff or illegal dumping.
They're used in the manufacture of plastics, paints, varnishes, and they also occur from weathering of asphalt, and also from tyre particles.
Dr Dunstan says these pollutants are more likely to affect the lower forms of life in the food chain. However, more research is needed to assess the full impact on the environment. Jane Anderson, NBN News.
The Cessnock Goannas team in the yellow was third going into the game. Curry was second last, but local derbies are great levellers and Curry at home rose to the occasion. A penalty gave the locals the lead. Cessnock bombed its chance to get in front. The Goannas couldn't handle the pressure in defence either. Curry's Glenn Messenger pouncing on the loose ball to extend the lead. An upset was on the cards with Curry 8-0 up. The Goannas retaliated with clever attack, but it was a bungled kick that gave Cessnock its first points. The conversion hooked perfectly to reduce the margin to 2 points. Cessnock's unorthodox kicking style continued, but it was Curry's defence that stood out. Curry was just as capable with the ball, but fullback Brian Robb couldn't hang on to the last pass. Another penalty gave the locals a 10-6 lead at half-time, Curry going on to win 28 points to 12. St George in the red was spot on early in the game, but Newcastle went goal for goal with the visitors. St George couldn't miss, whereas the Newcastle team's shooting started to waver. But the local sights were soon back online, sinking them from everywhere. St George had no answer for this scoring machine, Newcastle going on to win 35 points to 30. Richard O'Leary, NBN News.
After weeks of debate, Council's decision last night set the annual garbage collection charge at just over $79. Changes in the Local Government Act have imposed the fee on all properties, vacant or occupied. Independent councillor Bob Tousas recommended the charge be split at around $83 for occupied properties and $30 for vacant, but his motion was defeated.
People are going to pay for something they're not going to get value out of. They're not going to get a service. And it's as simple as that. Why should you pay for something that you're not going to get?
23-year-old Tony Armstrong has just purchased his first block of land and says the new charge is yet another financial burden on top of his mortgage.
Another fee, more money we've got to find, further making it harder to buy blocks of ground for this fee.
In Lake Macquarie, there are about 5,000 owners of vacant land. Council says if they place a wheelie bin on their properties, they're entitled to the garbage collection service. According to one potential home builder, that's little consolation.
What rubbish does a vacant block of ground have? None, Crazy.
Melinda Smith, NBN News.
Thinking big, it seems, doesn't make tourists any easier to crack. Tari's Big Oyster opened easily enough more than 4 years ago, but the tourists haven't exactly flocked to the giant shellfish. Some locals say that's no surprise.
It's an eyesore, personally, I think it is. I mean, it just doesn't fit in, doesn't suit, I don't know.
I didn't think that it was ever going to be a success anyway.
I think it was a flop from the start.
Council says the Big Oyster's downfall is its location.
There's some problem, I guess, with the remoteness of the site, some problem with the presentation, but it was one of a chain which had some success over time.
Still, there's some community sympathy for the massive mollusk.
A lot of people have commented it's a bit of an eyesore, but it's just a shame. I mean, it's a shame to see any business struggle in any town.
It's a shame that it's gone into liquidation because they invested a lot of money out there and created some development.
I'd be very sorry if it were going into liquidation, but I perhaps wouldn't be sorry to see the oyster gone, which I call the false teeth.
Toothless tourism, tiger or not, Council believes there's still some potential there.
It
could well be a performance space. It could be suitable for a whole range of craft and general community uses.
Newcastle University took over the Cessnock-based Civil Air Training Academy in 1988. 2 months ago, it proposed to restrict future enrolments to only university students and change the company name to the University of Newcastle Flying School. In preparation for a scaling back of operations, an independent consultant is carrying out an operational review and is expected to make recommendations by late August. It's believed the existing cost blowout and cash flow problems are the results of too much effort being spent on training and not enough on charging for services. Since 1990, 150 students have graduated from the science aviation degree. A company spokesman today said he hoped the matter would be sorted out within the next month and believes the uni has no intention of closing the school down.
Three people have died in the past 18 months in traffic accidents at this intersection of the New England Highway and Anderson Drive at Beresfield, the most recent fatality just last Sunday. A proposal to make the intersection safer had come from a public meeting the Lord Mayor convened at Beresfield in July last year. The City Council worked on the proposal and presented it to the Transport Minister, Mr Baird, last November. According to the Lord Mayor, a consultant with the RTA came up with 7 more options. Most of these were ruled out, and both the Council and the RTA were left with the original idea from the Beresfield public meeting. The solution, which would cost about $9 million, provides for an overpass of the highway and a new link road between Thornton and Beresfield, eliminating the need for motorists to cross the highway. The Lord Mayor says this is the best solution, but also the most costly. Councillor McNaughton said he wrote to the Transport Minister today asking that the RTA expedite the matter.
While Brussels sprouts have an image problem, the broccoli business is booming. This was the news given to more than 100 people who attended the recent conference. It was the first time such an event has been held in the state, and according to Bathurst horticulturist Clary Beckingham, it came just in time.
Nothing stands still in primary production, and our vegetable brassicas are no exception. It might be, for example, a production issue dealing with a problem that has developed in insect resistance, through to really important quality management issues. These are signalling new developments in the industry.
Along with new varieties and integrated pest management, the conference looked at quality control and the controversial proposal to introduce a vegetable research levy. However, it seems the biggest challenge facing the industry at the moment is capturing lucrative export markets.
If we're going to be overseas in exports, then we better make sure that what we produce here is different and better than what is produced from our competitive countries. Because otherwise, we're just going to be another supplier in the world marketplace.
And though latest statistics show Australians are eating more vegetables, keeping it that way is a never-ending chore.
People's eating habits are changing, and it's up to we people in the industry to try and lure them back from the fast foods. Fast foods, there's a place for fast foods, but I'm afraid fast foods tend to be taking over the fresh product a little bit, so we've got to become educators again. We've got to teach the people how to prepare the vegetables, how good they are for them, and, and that way ensure our future.
6 accident investigation kits were handed over to police today by the RTA. They'll be kept in highway patrol vehicles using the freeway and the Pacific Highway. Previously, if there was a serious crash, the road would remain blocked until the accident investigation unit or a patrol car arrived. Now, highway cars which travel the roads daily have the ability to handle an accident, reducing delays.
The people will benefit by it, because once the measurements and photographs and stuff have been taken at the scene of an accident, the road can be cleared to allow traffic to pass by.
The kits, which contain measuring tape, marking paint, a camera and witches' hats, are a result of this report, the findings of the State Government's Standing Committee on Road Safety. They'll be trialled for 3 months before police decide whether to introduce them statewide. The start of the school holidays tomorrow is expected to test their effectiveness.
We've always got an increased traffic problem during school holidays, people travelling north and then at the end of the school holidays returning back, and this will certainly save a lot of time there should there be any accident.
Jodie McKay, NBN News.
It's the first time the Department of Water Resources has undertaken a major study into bacterial levels in the Hunter River. Tests were conducted with the support of the Upper Hunter Councils during a 5-month period along 12 sites from Maitland to Murrurundi. The study revealed all sites failed guidelines for raw drinking water. However, all sites except Murrurundi and Singleton were within guidelines set for recreational use, irrigation and stock watering. It highlighted water quality in the Merriwar River and Kingdon Ponds at Parkville as marginal to poor. The study also showed rain affected the number of faecal coliforms in the river and its tributaries, heavy rainfall causing agricultural runoff, which resulted in high levels.
You shouldn't be drinking the water directly out of the river. The water should be boiled first. And as far as swimming in the water is concerned, I think people need to be cautious.
Water Resources says while bacteria is a problem in all the state's major rivers, warning signs will now be erected along the Hunter River. Monitoring will continue. Affected councils plan to work with a number of environmental authorities to devise specific strategies to improve the river's health.
We need to pinpoint the sources of pollution that are contributing to this particular problem, and the introduction of good catchment management principles to generally improve the quality of the water in the river.
Melinda Smith, NBN News.